Hey everybody, welcome back to the Manic Expression Digression session. I'm joined as always by my co-host Martin,
And of course, with me as always is my co-host James.
and we're back here now for episode 4. We're going to be doing some discussion about this animated movie project that
All right, I'm just gonna have to take 1 second here. I'm gonna jump in real quick because I need to go over this. We were talking about this with Decker last time. Okay, so we're recording this on October 30th.
mhm.
So I know this was probably going to be out sometime like around November, but consider this our Halloween little thing. We have to go over this. Terrifier 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I can't I can't get out nearly enough how much this movie baffles the fuck out of me. Okay, so let's do a recap.
Okay.
So I saw a random poster at my local AMC of Terrifier 2, and it has a clown on it. It looks like it's a gory thing. I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. Okay, sure. Sometimes AMC's, especially like local ones, will show small films. Usually they're of like the really religious variety,
Uh,
but okay, so fine, Terrifier 2. Then I see a fucking trailer, like a full-on trailer during one of the movies. Like, oh, I forget what I was seeing, but it was a real movie made from Hollywood, and Terrifier 2 plays before it. So I'm like, okay, all right, sure, local theater, fuck around, whatever. I don't understand. Then some other details come out. First of all, Decker tells me that it comes from originally a short from a movie called All Hallows Eve, right?
uh,
And it's ridiculous. So next comes up Terrifier 1. No fanfare, nothing. I don't No one really hears about it unless you're in like the direct to video community or really love this type of schlocky stuff, which is fine. There's a community for this. So when I so here's the thing. Terrifier 2 hits. It is currently standing at 87% from the audiences, and I'm sorry, 87% from critics, 83% audiences, is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I've I've barely heard this movie exists. So
And I know, right? This shouldn't exist outside of our little niche. Like people who have podcasts watch these movies because of how schlocky they are, and it's like this ecosystem. It's like when you have a terrarium and like you put moss and stuff and you feed it, and then it kind of makes its own little cloud and dispenses back, so you don't have to keep watering it. It creates its own thing as long as you have it in the sunlight.
yeah.
Imagine that with absolute shit. Imagine shit gets brought up into the atmosphere and rained down because we are the sunlight. So this shouldn't get out into the real world, right?
You would think.
No, it shouldn't. And
No,
it
you would think
shouldn't
it
be
shouldn't.
certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And it's not just there. Everyone else is like Metacritic is at a 57, which compared to some other movies that are in theaters right now, like Black Adam, which is not a great movie, but it's fine. It should be at a 57. Terrifier 2, I think, is above that. How did Oh, okay. So guess what the runtime is? So Terrifier 1 is a solid 82 minutes. You know,
Mhm.
killer clown movie. Get in, get out.
Right.
Right? Give me the runtime you think for Terrifier 2.
I'm going to go a little longer. I'm going to say around 90.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
What the fuck?
It's a 2 hour and 20-minute epic clown slaughter movie in theaters. So I took all this. I took everything that Decker told me, and I said, this can't be okay. I'm going to go see this movie. So I went to go see Terrifier 2. And the first thing that really got to me was that not only this, normally you see these little movies, they have one, maybe two showtimes a day.
Uh-huh.
This had six showtimes every day with more on the weekends. And I checked other theaters. It's not just my local theater. It's being shown a lot and all over where I am. So I went to go see it.
Uh-huh.
James, this movie is no different than any other shitty fucking horror movie I've seen lately. I need help. I think I need legitimate help figuring this shit out. So I need a call to everyone. I don't Not just why you think it's good, because if you're a gore hound out there, I get it. This movie is incredibly graphic. The special effects are great. Um, it's nothing fancy. but like it's not even, the acting is fine, but the characters are like one-dimensional, and then even some of the kills, so like they're really inventive, but they like go overboard, and they really, faces get ripped off, people are like, chunks are taken off. But then there's one point where like someone's washing a car, and I don't know if they just ran out of ideas, because they swipe away like some soap off of a window, and there's Art the Clown, and he just picked up a shotgun and shoots.
Oh.
Wow, what an original kill! Didn't see that one fucking coming. Guess why? Because the rest of the movie was a torture thing, and he's just like, fuck it. Imagine if Michael Myers just got bored stabbing people and pulled out a Glock. How does this work in a horror movie?
I don't think I've even seen the trailer for it, so I can't comment too much. All I know is that like I watched the Hellraiser remake on Hulu, which was better than I thought it would be. I'd still call it the third best Hellraiser movie in general, but I was watching it going, this feels like I should be watching this in a theater. It's a fairly classy, like higher budget for a horror movie kind of a thing. Terrifier 2 does not seem like that. Seems like that should be on Hulu, and Hellraiser should be in theaters.
And I think I have to bring this up now, because not only did it continually confuse me after we had that conversation with Decker, but who am I going to talk to about this? My
Decker.
wife does. I mean, it's Decker, clearly Decker. But like, my brother doesn't give a shit. We don't run the podcast anymore. He doesn't want to hear about what I'm watching. My wife doesn't give a shit. She's watching Hocus Pocus and like Practical Magic. That's her Halloween movies. I showed her Drag Me to Hell, and she yelled at me the whole time, just like, "Why are you showing me this? This is so gross." I'm like, I know it's great, right? And she looks like she's about to slap me. Instead, she sticks the dog on me. It's different story.
My girlfriend did that when I showed her Reanimator.
All right, I knew where to draw a line, James. But still, it's one of these things where it's like, I don't know who to vent to about this. I don't understand this. Also, Chris Jericho's in it, the wrestler. In an after credit scene, because I went through the whole movie, 2 hours and 20 minutes, just being like, where the fuck is Chris Jericho? He was in the credits, and sure enough, there he goes. Shows up in the last scene. Don't know why they even bother putting it's so direct to DVD, and yet it's everywhere where I am, and it's getting attention, and people love it. I even went to the, how you can separate from top critics and just regular schmucks on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, there's got to be, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just these are all the gorehounds coming out and supporting their movie, cranking it up. No, it's 50-50 from top critics. So it's still a solid 50% from people who actually have journalistic credentials.
That's bizarre.
So happy Halloween, everyone.
Yeah.
I've gone mad in this H.P. Lovecraft-esque nightmare of movie fandom. I don't know about you, but I'm not coming back from this anytime soon.
Well, and speaking of going mad, we decided to make an animated movie with no money.
We also did that. That's an ongoing thing.
And I thought, because we've touched on it, in the other episodes, but not really like gone into like the whole thing, the whole process of like me coming up with the idea, you writing the script, getting people involved, going through everything we've gone through to get to this point where we've got, as of this point recording, we've got about half an hour of animation with no backgrounds. All this stuff that I'm learning now, like I just always thought the backgrounds were animated at the same time. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit. And I think I've brought up this story before of like when I had the idea, it literally was just, I was sitting down and watching the Muppet movie with my daughter, and just at some point it just popped in my head, wouldn't it be funny if this was us? And by the time, like, it was like halfway through the movie, like I'm thinking, oh my God, I need this movie to be over because I want to do this. I want to do this. I need to start sending emails like right now. It's just all I can think about now, like the whole time I'm watching the movie. And the more I'm watching it, the more I'm thinking, oh my God, this would be really funny to do this. And I didn't know that it would be animation or live action. Uh, I think I left that up to you, and you said, of course it's gonna be fucking animation, you idiot. Uh,
Yeah, to
and-
give you a little bit of my mindset there, the ability to make a movie, a live action movie, would have been technically cheaper, maybe. We're
yeah,
talking plane tickets to get people together. It would actually have limited the script quite a bit as well. Um, and it probably would have taken just as long, but it's a big ask. None of
yeah.
it would ask for more money from different people,
Hmm.
and it would also limit what we could do with the script as is. And some of us aren't really actors. I mean, look, I'm an actor. But other people, it might not have been as comfortable. Would we have done stand-ins? It was just made more sense to get what the vision that we wanted, but just making it animated.
Well, and my whole thing was, I didn't want this to be a like Manic Expression exclusive thing where we just put it on the site for
Mhm.
people. If we had done live action, it would have looked like, and I'm not knocking this because it was its own thing. It would have looked like the old That Guy with the Glasses movies. It would have looked like Kick-Assia and Suburban Nights for people who remember that those even exist.
Mhm.
Um, and it would have been probably would have looked worse than those because we wouldn't have had their resources that they had at the time. So pretty quickly, like I thought, yeah, animation is the obvious way to do this because
Mhm.
people we're gonna have to take time off work. None of us are rich and can just
Nope.
drop what we're doing. But yeah, I was the one who kind of set up that initial roster. Half of the main cast aren't in the movie. Like that first draft of the script, um, it featured Lady Dandy in it, who's not in the movie,
Mhm.
Tim Deanna, who's not in the movie, and Gurning Chimp, who's not in the movie. And really, like that was more of a Lady Dandy just sort of disappeared. um, and Tim got busy, and then Gurning Chimp just sort of retired from like the internet stuff. But you know, we brought in cartoon physicist and Dom Perignon to replace them, and then just dropped the Gurning Chimp character, which you never really seem to know what to do with that character anyway.
He was the narrator, and now we
Yeah,
just have a narrator with a British accent.
yeah,
So, uh,
and um, but yeah, the rest of the cast was Decker and Creepy and Fanfic and Big Black Hat Man, and they were the ones that stuck. And how did you come up with like, because you were the one who had to figure out like, all right, because you're creating these characters, but they're based on not just the performers, but like Decker. It's very weird to talk about them this way because Decker is really Ben,
mhm.
and but you're not writing Ben, you're writing Decker, and you've got all of these hours and hours and hours of videos that you could watch. I remember one of the questions you came up to me with was, how do I get James from Minnesota to Mississippi where Creepy is? And I was like, you don't. We just live next to each other. It's like nobody knows who I am or where I'm from. This isn't
Mhm.
really me. But you had to kind of base it on these characters that these people had already created. So how did you go about doing that?
So what I've noticed about my writing process lately is there's a lot of large logic strings that you need to put together. Hence why I was asking you questions like that. And yeah, it's true. You do have to overcome some things like no one knows where you guys live, but you still need to make it a little bit, you still need to incorporate something to logically bring it together. And
Mm,
so what I would do is I would start with the facts that I know. That's why I watch so many videos because I need to hear the voice. I need to know how they speak, their candor, what vocabulary are they using? Because they are going to be different from character to character.
Mhm.
You know, I don't want Creepy or Decker to be dropping F-bombs every other word the way, like, say, if some jerk was in the movie, which
Yeah.
he actually was at one point, or he'd be dropping F-bombs all the time. No, they punctuate things. You have to mean it for those two characters. Whereas you'll just casually, especially when you're frustrated, will just casually just let more go.
I felt like my character was probably the most influenced by you.
Yep.
Like I felt like there was some melding of James and some jerk into one character.
Probably because, and that's, all right, you can't escape that. It's me writing it, and of course, it's going to be somewhat of my voice coming out too.
Well, and it was also I didn't really have a character. Like Decker, Decker Shadow is a character. That long-haired creepy guy is a character. I always just sat in front of a camera and rambled. So,
But the thing is, I also talk to you and like this, and we would have discussions, and you would come on the original Manic Expression Digression session, so I knew how you sounded. Um, the only thing that might have changed is the aggression. That's definitely a some jerk tilt.
mhm.
Because in order to get through these scenarios, you need to have a little bit more oomph. That Minnesota style, just backhanded compliment,
Well, I'm
passive
not
aggressive.
from Minnesota, just to clarify that. Like, I didn't move to
Eh,
Minnesota until I was an adult. But yeah,
let's just,
I'm a Southern California boy. If anything, you could have made me vapid. And
I probably could have, but you will always be a Minnesota personality to me, despite the fact that you came from Southern California.
mm,
So that didn't go away. But at the same time, that also wouldn't work. We need somebody who will talk back,
mhm.
who will, if the needs be to get aggressive, they'll get aggressive.
Well, and one of the things that you pitched to me, which I really liked, was that if I had a persona, the persona was that I was the person that everybody came to, like because I was the person who was the founder of the site and I ran the
Mhm.
thing, and people would come to me, and I was generally known as this sort of Mr. Rogers kind of figure. I always felt like, and you were like, okay, you'll become that, but first you're going to be this sort of prick who's
Yeah.
just out for himself and maybe even using people just slightly. And I went, okay, I like that.
And you can't say I did wrong when I heard your voice work. I'm like, it sounds like he said these words before.
Mhm.
So I knew that I was on the right page. Honestly, once all the voice work came back and they all sounded naturally like their videos, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
now I can rest assured that I actually did a decent job. They sound like them.
Mhm. Well, and I mean, without getting too much into the plot, because this is a movie that we're hoping
Mhm.
to sell, and we don't want to spoil the whole thing before anybody gets to see it. But um, yeah, to me, like you found the right edge for each of the characters to where they sounded like their characters in the video, but
Mhm.
opened up in a way that they can't be in their videos. Like to me, fanfic critic is my favorite character in the movie. And she's got that same edge to her that she has in her videos. But there's also just a little bit of like a real human kind of sadness to
Mhm.
her. And there is to each of them, because these are sort of misfits. These are people who they dream of, like, maybe internet stardom, but they're not the polished kind of YouTuber that um that typically makes it. And fanfic in particular, I felt like there's just a little bit of like she's sold out, and you know she has this thing that she's passionate about, but it's there's a sadness to her, like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be like the biggest thing, and I'm competing with all of these um in the movie, these sort of vapid uh the the YouTubers who make sure that they have a certain percentage of cleavage in every
Mhm.
video, and she can't compete with that. She's got to just rely on her own talent.
It's a fading star trying to find their way back. And it's not until she's actually forced out of the ivory tower, so to speak,
Hmm.
that she realizes, oh no, I actually like doing this and I'm willing to fight for it back. And in the end, I'm willing to be a part of something else if it means I get to do what I want to do and not the way other people want to. And honestly, when you're writing these characters, these are the things that you need to think of. It's essentially the why that we discussed last time.
Hmm.
Why are they doing this? What's pushing them? I can give you a plot from A to Z that will be interwoven and will seem crazy. And when I explain it to you, it's great. But if the people who are going through that plot aren't good, like you don't care about them, then A to Z doesn't matter. So first you'd have to think about what characters you want to put in and make sure that what you're doing is correct. That's actually why there's a lot of swapping of the characters early on, even before we drop some.
Hmm.
Some characters I was having a hard time finding what makes them interesting. So like, Lady Dandy, for all the things that we had when I was first writing her, she was a very naive character who kind of latched on to people and literally tried to find her own way, but it wasn't nearly as interesting as what I saw that the fanfic critic was going through, which was somebody who fell from grace and was trying to find her way back. So
Hmm.
once I dropped Lady Dandy, writing fanfic became even
Yeah.
better because I was able to not just get her voice, I was able to finally give her those stakes that the character needed. And just like anything else, as whatever your great story is, just make sure that within that great story, everyone has an arc because you want to see everyone progress somewhere.
And
And
you
yeah.
told me early on that you said James, Creepy, and Dandy were going to be the Harry, Ron, and Hermione of the movie. And
Hmm.
when Dandy was dropped, fanfic took that position. To me, like I'm the straight man for a lot of it. And if anybody is sort of almost more the central character, it's fanfic to me. Um, which or at the very least the co-lead. And which I was worried, like, because I when I pitched it, I didn't pitch me as the central character. Um, but real quickly, like when I started reading like the stuff you were writing, I was like, oh, this isn't me. This is and that's it's weird because I'll be speaking to Seth, our animator, or
Hmm.
whoever, and I'll be saying, okay, in this scene, James and Decker are doing this. I don't say Decker and me
Hmm.
because that's not me. I'm I'm playing a character named James in the movie, and he's got a lot of my characteristics and traits, but he's not me. It's sort of like I suddenly had a character the way that Decker did, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, he's a little full of himself. He's more than a little full of himself, and he does genuinely care about these people, but he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing all of the time.
Hmm.
And I liked that. I liked that he was he was sort of like, I want to help all these people do this thing and I can do it because I'm a genius. And that really appealed to me as far and it made him a more interesting character than if it just
Hmm.
was, oh, he's a nice guy.
You see, and that's what I was lingering on when I actually started to come up with the characteristics for your character was that early film student. You know the one I'm
Yeah.
talking about. The one who believes that they can do anything because they can just manage to make things work. And then I put that motherfucker in the real world.
Yeah. Well, and he reminds me more of like maybe like when I watched like the footage and stuff coming in, I see the character as being in his like mid 20s.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't see him as being like the age I actually I would think I was 38, 39 when I recorded the dialogue, but like I'm watching it and I'm like, he drinks like I did in my mid 20s.
Hmm.
He's full of himself like I was in my mid 20s. Um, and that's not how I was playing him. I didn't really have an age in mind playing him, but watching it back, I'm like, this character is much younger than I am now.
Yeah. And that's what I did with the other characters too. we're all roughly around the same age. I mean, some of us are crazy younger in comparison, but I think roughly within the same age span,
Hmm.
plus or minus 5 years. So I put everyone as younger and at different places in their lives. When you look at with fanfic or creepy, they both did things in different ways, found their own success early on, and then came back. Creepy is almost like a grounding force, despite how outrageous his character could be
Yeah.
sometimes. That's what's
Oh, he's the
because
most together of anybody,
yeah,
which
because
is not how I pitched him to you.
nope,
Like,
because I see fanfic going out there. She's imagine being the height of your success at like 23.
mhm,
And
which
then
is
you
a lot
have
of
a
YouTubers.
yeah, and then you have a downfall. I mean, I can't even imagine where you would go from there. It must be not just heartbreaking, but it also must be like exhausting because you can't go back to what you did because no one is actively doing it. So if you reboot yourself and just do the same thing,
Mhm,
are you going to get a new audience? Are you going to get the same audiences? What are you going to do? But then again, maybe you lost something along the way because even the YouTubers that we've watched nowadays, they've changed over time. Even if you don't realize it seeing episode to episode, but if you go
mhm,
back to their early stuff and their mid-tier stuff, you'll notice changes along the way. Sometimes it's due to what we talked about with Decker, algorithmic stuff, or
mhm.
maybe it's just due to them maturing a little bit, and not wanting to do things, or knowing that their audiences were, tired of old shticks. But so that's where I had fanfic come in. Meanwhile, then I also had Creepy, who did a lot of what she did,
Mhm.
but didn't decide to even try. He just wanted to be happy with himself.
Mhm.
So he starts the movie perfectly level, and he's okay with that. And as his arc goes on, his arc does is like one of those few that goes back to zero, where it's like, did he have any character development? And it's like, well, I think this is the time when you realize his character development was he realized he didn't need all that much character development. He went
Mhm.
through it before in a story you've never seen,
Yeah.
and that's where he ended up, and he was just reminded of why he did that.
Well, there is a great line in it where when he introduces himself to fanfic and she says, I know a lot of people on the internet are creepy, but I've never heard any of them call themselves creepy. And his response is, I just like to own it.
Yeah.
And that is not only like a great place for the character to be, that is creepy in real life. Like
Yeah.
he's just, this is me, and this is how I think you're going to perceive me. So I'm just gonna own it.
Mhm.
And um and then you get to like the characters who are more in the supporting roles. The last two of which who were brought in were cartoon physicist and Dom Perignon.
Mhm.
The cartoon physicist being like the youngest. I think she was only 18 or 19 when she recorded her dialogue. And but she brings like I think the energy that maybe originally was supposed to be fanfic
Mhm.
when Lady Dandy was in it, where she's sort of just bored. It's and I was so like when I started hearing her performance back, especially when it was like intercut with the other performers, to hear her just be so bored with the
Yeah.
whole thing and just be in that sort of I'm young and I don't really
She's
care.
also a creature of the internet. She
Mhm,
lives there. So to her, this is all normal and boring.
mhm,
So she's just going through the motions. And that's why she's looking for new, interesting people who may. It's like, so I just went through a haunted house with somebody who doesn't really go through haunted houses. I'm this old jaded guy. I'm walking through like I'm just going down a path because
yeah.
it was in the woods. And I'm just enjoying the vibe, and this person is terrified.
Mhm,
So, in a way, that would be an analogy to how cartoon physicists would have seen someone like James, who was coming in fresh, wide-eyed, fuzzy tails, like, "Oh, you're about to see some shit," and you know what?
mhm.
I'm gonna be around to see how this happens, and then maybe being like, "Huh, you know what? You have a different perspective, so maybe we'll hang out a little bit more, and I want to know more about what your thoughts are." and maybe try to get some more excitement out of a realm that is filled with excitement for everyone else except for her.
While also like pointing out that she found me completely non-threatening. Like, oh, she's got, you have a kindness to your eyes. You're also just weak. I'm not afraid of you in any way. And then with Dom being more of a powerful character in the realm of the internet, and but at the same time, he's got this status that he has earned or stolen over time, but he's still, in the end, he's just another misfit. And when he finds himself in the group with us, he thinks he's better than us. He doesn't think that he thinks that he's got it all figured out, and then James really calls him on it, and gets him on board. And then Big Black Hat Man being really borderline a cameo. Like, he's very important to the story. He's much more of a character than a cameo, but he definitely has the least to do. But that he felt like, I always call him the Obi-Wan Kenobi in the movie. He's the character that the sort of wise character that we come across. And which is not his character in his videos. In his videos, he's kind of an asshole. But you turned him a little bit more into more of a cowboy character.
Yep. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, and I'd love to get back to talking about Dom Perignon and Big Black Hat Man, but of course we have to take a break for our sponsor, Terrifier 2.
Greetings, film adventurer Tim Deanna here, and you're watching the Manic Expression Digression session on Manic Expression.
And we're back. And we were discussing the characters from the Manic Expression movie, and you wanted to get more into Dom and Big Black Hat Man.
Yeah, I actually need to go back a little bit for Dom and think about it, because he was actually kind of hard to write for. I actually didn't know him as a person. Everyone else I spoke to. So I had a good idea of how they talked, what they enjoyed. Even on the digression session, I would get into specifics of why they like, what they, what did they do at home? What were their other hobbies? Things like that to get into the headspace. Dom, I just had his videos. So I kind of had to go off the essence of what I saw. And what I saw was a guy who was fairly confident and a little bit, I guess, powerful is the right word. He was able to just push out whatever he needed and get you to understand where he was coming from. And my thought was, okay, I need somebody who has that force of nature, who could push when he needs to, but is also able to, be a friendly face to others. So what fits there? Also, what do I need for this story? And what's funny? I was like, fuck it, we're gonna make him a pirate.
And he was, because he was fairly new to the site. And I knew that Tim wasn't, he was more hesitant about what his schedule was going to be like, and he had kind of already retired from even posting videos on Manic Expression. And then Dom came along, and I remember sending you a video and being like, I think we've got our pirate. And him and Cartoon Physicist were the two last editions. I remember, I think Cartoon Physicist was the last one, because I went to you and I was like, how do you feel about doing another draft?
Yeah, I guess I was too thrilled about that one, but no, but what was fun about Cartoon Physicist doing her stuff was really that I was able to kind of do whatever I wanted. I think maybe I saw a video for, did she do videos? Or was she articles? Yeah, maybe I saw a video or two. I don't really know, but I already had an idea. I'm like, a cartoon physicist, you say? So I guess a little bit unfair to her. Mine was a little bit more of a concept. so that was
Yeah.
fresh from my brain. But I think it kind of gelled with the vibe that she was going for.
Well, when she played it perfectly, and what people hear me sort of praising these people and like, oh well, yeah, you're trying to sell a movie. I listened to, like, when I would read your script, I would be like, yeah. When I would listen to the audio cut together, I would laugh and just, it's that difference between just reading something and hearing it. And, and I'm, as I watch like the footage come in, seeing expressions change and, that, the, just to have like the lowering of eyelids as somebody is getting annoyed or something adds even more to it. So, but Cartoon Physicist every line is funny. Like every single line is funny, and it is, they're funny lines, but it's her delivery. Like she really undersells it beautifully. And with Dom, it's just ego. And it's these characters are not interchangeable. They're all very different. And which is I credit you as the writer, but I also credit the fact that these characters kind of already existed. These people had, and that was something I remember when I first announced it on the site. I don't even remember who it was. It was a blogger, and he wrote to me and he was like, so, we're all going to be in it, right? And I was like,
Nah, buddy, not even the writer's gonna be in it.
No.
And believe me, there was a draft where I actually show up, and I think the other dude also shows up, another old member.
Mhm.
And I was like, cool. Well, these are gone. They don't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah, no, and it's still, when I'm sure people hear us talking about it, oh, it's a movie, and they have in their mind like YouTube videos. This is a movie. This is 100 minutes long. This is a feature. This is in fact like, yeah, and it was longer. We've cut
It was
out
way too long.
Yeah, we've cut out quite a bit in the editing of the audio, and sort of streamlined a lot of it. And it's fun because I feel like working with Seth, we're still getting to invent things. Like, he will send me questions and be like, okay, what do these characters look like? Like, I'm reading the script, but I'm not getting a real sense of like what they look like. Where are they? Like, what does this place look like? And it's been a lot of fun to just talk to him and learn about the art of animation, because our previous animator
Oh boy, 3 years of our time.
3 years of our time, and $1,200 of our money, that we'll never get back, but it was worth it to be rid of him. It was this is where we could get into the independent movie making part of all of this, which is, if you don't have a lot of money, you need a lot of patience.
Yep.
But I think I had too much patience when it came to our previous animator, because I kept being like, maybe we'll get something. We might get something.
Yeah. Well, let me circle back because I did want to touch on Big Black Hat Man, which actually kind of melds into real life in a very scary, well, not a scary way, but in an interesting way. See, when I wrote the character Big Black Hat Man, I didn't actually take him from his videos. That was Mark.
Yeah.
Like him as a person. That wasn't, I know in his videos he can come off as loud and brash, and he has that personality, but when you actually talk to him, that's not him. So
No.
when we got to that point in the script, I didn't need that. So I was like, oh crap, what do we do with Black Hat Man? And I was like, well, let's just have the real person there, because if you were to actually sit down and talk to him, this is probably what he would say to you.
Yeah.
And this is probably how he would do it. And that's why he feels like that Obi-Wan, that anchor. And you know what we really needed? An anchor when we were doing when we were dealing with that animator, because I mean, like you are very trusting and very hopeful, and just day one where he talked back to me, I was like, fire him,
Hmm.
fire him flat out. We would have been
Hmm.
done with him like a
Yeah,
few months in, and I was just like, nope.
that was on me, and it was like I wanted to, because you'd get on the phone with him
Hmm.
and he wouldn't let you talk. Like, he just would talk over you
Hmm.
constantly, but he would sound convincing in what he was saying. He would sound arrogant and
Hmm.
egotistical. I mean, the fucking ego on this asshole, where at one point he said something about, he referred to himself as a genius. Genius is never appreciated. And I'm like, are you
Hmm.
serious right now? Your animation's not that great. And it it got to the point where when I finally fired him, it was a
Hmm.
pleasure. Like, I was the one who did it, and it was like, oh, this is gonna feel so good.
Hmm. Yeah, and I tried to be like a nice guy at one point because, I knew what was coming. But when I put on my producer hat, and here's
Hmm.
that hat, and I say, okay, tell me what you have. If you send me lovely, well-worded reasoning and show me no work, I
Yeah.
don't care. And there were times where it really was a matter of, oh, do you need to see X, Y, and Z? Do you need to see these color tests? You need to see this. You really need to see how, quote unquote, how the sausage is made. And I
Hmm.
just, when I was finally the one answering, I said, yes,
Hmm.
yes, I do. I need to see that something is done. Yes, I will understand it.
Hmm.
Yes, you will also explain it to me and why. Because if you're doing a color test, I need to see that. I need to know the coloring. If
The
you're doing it, if you're using assets, I need to see those assets and make sure that they're okay. Because as we
he's
found out from one of his videos, those assets were from a different job and
Yes,
we could not use them.
he said to me once that he made it. He said, what you want is a golden ticket. You want to go into the chocolate factory and see how it's made." And I'm like, we hired you. Yes, that's what we want. And
Bitch, you forget you're the Oompa Loompa. We're Willy Wonka.
and this was after the first animator. I said we gave him $1,200, and you're like, $1,200 for fucking 100-minute animated movie is nothing.
Yeah.
First
Which
of
we would
all,
understand.
first of all, that was the original budget from the original animator. He actually only asked for $500, and we went to Kickstarter and we raised 1,200 for him, and then he ghosted us. He didn't get the money. He ghosted us before he even got the money. And then the second animator died in a car
Yeah.
accident.
That was oof.
Yeah. And then the third animator, uh, now you say $1,200 for an animated movie, that's nothing. If you agree to it and you sign a contract,
Mm.
then you then have to deliver. And this guy, it wasn't even that he was going slow. He showed us 1 minute of half-finished animation in the entire 3 years that we
Mhm.
had him. When we hired Seth, he literally showed me more animation just as a sample before I had even hired him. And in one night, he sent me more animation than we got in 3 years from the other guy.
And here's the big thing. I know people are going to be saying like, you still kind of sound like jerks. Like you expected $1,200 for them to just do
Mhm.
an entire movie, blah blah blah. That's flat. And the honest answer is, we would treat them like any other person. Like when I wrote the script, it took me 3 years to write the script. If you say, yes, you have the money, but if you say, God damn, this is really hard, it's overwhelming, I don't know if I can do this, we would come back and say, do what you can. Do you need a break? Stop. Do you need
Mhm.
to go off the project? Can we use your assets and move forward with someone else? We can find a way. We are not the immovable
No.
wall that's in the way of people making money off of doing creative things, such as, Seth does other animations for other people. If he
Mhm.
can't if he can't do something, that's not an issue.
No.
We didn't expect it. We're surprised we got this far. James is surprised that we got to the animation stage as is.
Mhm.
I'm surprised. I'm sure he's surprised we finished the script.
I was I was fully like prepared at one point, like, all right, this might just have to be a podcast play where we just release the audio. But the thing is, we've been working with Seth now for a year, and yeah, it's taking longer than he said it would.
Mm-hmm.
Which I fully anticipated. Like, that's where I was, like, he said, okay, I should have it done by this date. And I was like, probably not. And
Yeah, I'm sure based off people's timelines, they understand how much work they can do, but on bigger projects, the timelines of smaller projects don't actually line up. And trust me, that's my job at my job.
mhm,
If I am doing a small, we'll say it's a UAT, it's called user acceptance testing, UAT. It's where we are essentially testing the database to make sure that it's working appropriately. We go in and we try to break it.
mhm,
Now, if I'm doing this with my own setup that I know is going to work, I have my timelines, I know how this works. And surprise, surprise, maybe with a little bit going back and forth, we can bust that out in like a week and a half. Now, if I take that timeline and apply it to a database that someone else built and that they are modifying, and I say, yeah, I could just bust this out in a week and a half, that's fucking stupid of me.
mhm.
That could be a 3-week to 4-week job because you're dealing with something that was broken to begin with and was then changed. So, and I know that Seth had these timelines, and I'm sure that within his capability, if this was his only job,
Mhm.
this movie would probably be done.
Yeah.
We would have probably had to pay him double the amount
Yeah.
and then extra on top for the backgrounds.
Which,
But
the original budget of $1,200 is not what Seth got paid.
No.
Seth is getting
No,
paid
no, no.
$12,000 to
Yeah.
finish, which is still an insanely low amount of
pittance.
money. Yes.
The fact that he's still working with us and hasn't told us to fuck off is amazing. We love him so much.
Yes, we do. And the thing is, if there's one thing that I would advise anybody who's trying to do anything like this with, if the person that you're going to hire isn't willing to give you a contract, do not work with that person. Do not give them money.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be people who'll be like, handshake. No, fuck that. Like, you need a contract, and the person needs to show their work as they go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the difference between Seth and the previous animator. Seth has shown all throughout, like
Mm-hmm.
and he's explained what the things that I never even thought. He telling me that creating what he called a rig for each character,
Mm-hmm.
that these characters are basically puppets. Once he animates them, he doesn't have to animate them again. He, manipulates them like puppets. Things I didn't know. And things that the previous animator, it's like, show me how the chocolate's made.
Yeah.
Show me how the chocolate's made, because it's our fucking chocolate factory.
Yeah, if there is a whole bunch of bugs in that chocolate machine, we want to know.
Yeah.
I don't need to know every little gear, but I need to see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And anybody who's, you gotta have what I have developed over the last few years, which is the ability to say to somebody, fuck you, show me your work, and to be the boss. If you gotta, I was so used to running things on Manic Expression where anything anybody did was for free.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sort of hope that they finish it. And I think because the movie is called Manic Expression, maybe I just carried that over. But the last animator bludgeoned that out of me. I will never do that again. It's a different kind of an independent movie because it's animation, but it's still an independent movie. And it has, to me, the sensibilities of an independent movie. It feels like a throwback to something from the mid-90s.
You know what it kind of feels like to me? Something that might have been picked up by Spike and Mike. Like not the maybe not well maybe the Twisted Festival, but at least parts of it, the animated festival. I mean, we're doing the best we can with what we have, and Seth is doing an amazing job. And
Mhm.
it's definitely something that I think people would enjoy, especially in a cult setting.
Yeah. Oh, this is not going to be like playing at an AMC theater. Like
Like Terrifier 2,
like
sponsor of
Terrifier
the Manic
2.
Expression Digression session, coming soon to dreams near you.
Yeah, it's not going to be playing at an AMC theater. It'll be picked up by a streaming service. Hopefully a bigger one, maybe not. And it, we're also you got to be malleable in what your expectations are.
Mhm.
We've had this discussion many times of like, this might not end up being a movie. This might end up being a proof of concept for a series, or maybe just doing the movie over again, but with money this
Mhm.
time. And it's it's a lot of like I've been having the discussions with Ichabod Todd, who's doing not only he's doing another pass on the audio, but he's also scoring the movie. And when I talk to him about it, I'm like, we have to treat this like the finished product.
Mhm.
Because if we just present it and we go, well, it's probably going to be a proof of concept, like what we've got going for us, and this is what I think anybody who's doing an independent movie has to do, because there are so many people who just take their iPhone and they go out and they film something. There are millions of people who have their own little movies that they've shot and edited together that no one will ever pick up. What you have to do is you have to go in and you have to be like, this is what we can do. You might want to take this and redo the whole thing with a bigger budget, but we've shown this is what we could do with the amount of money we had.
Mhm.
Bring us back, give us some real money, and watch what we can do. If like there's not been and it's tempting. It is so tempting a lot of the time when I'm listening to the audio, when I'm being told things, for me to go, good enough. It's good enough. And I have to push past that and be like, nope, that line is pitchy. It needs to be redone. Or if we can't fix it, it needs to be redone. And there's been quite a few people who I am friendly with in real life, and then I got their audio and I was like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I love you in real life, but this
No.
is terrible. And if this was, God forbid, A Sight in Scarlet,
Mhm.
which that was the ultimate, I don't care, it's fine, just whatever. Then we would do that. But everybody worked so hard on this, and I want there to be a payoff for it at the end of it. And in order to do that, you have to go in, and the thing that you can do to stand out from the crowd is to try your best, and to really, everybody tries their best. Go in and, like I said, the likelihood is, if it was picked up by Netflix would go, we like the concept.
Mhm.
This is really cheap. We're not going to put this on our streaming service, but we like the concept. But the reason that they will actually sit there and watch the whole thing is because it's not a mess that we just shrugged off. It'll be something that they can go, look what these people did for nothing.
Mhm.
And we lucked out in finding Seth. He gets it. He is passionate about the movie. He likes the movie. He quotes lines to me. And he's a fan of, and it's also great to have somebody who, the original animator who quoted us $1,200 or $500 was a member of the site. It's actually, to me, a benefit to have somebody who isn't, to have somebody who doesn't know us and isn't, it's one of the things that I discouraged from you was, let's not do a bunch of in jokes
Yep.
that
Nope.
nobody's going to get.
Nope, everything is completely original. The characters are the real people, or at least the persona that they have, but
Mhm.
every joke is just a joke.
Yeah.
There's
Any
very few references to their shows or anything like that.
anybody who's looking for like an in joke about Creepy and Decker going to Japan, uh, it's not there. Although I've always thought that maybe that was the falling out that they had, like because the characters start off the movie not on the best of terms, and I always thought maybe they went to Japan together and it didn't go so well. Um,
I think I had more written, but got cut. So
yeah,
I'd have to go back into my files, but who knows? It's probably gone.
I've the file on the hard drive of my computer with everything is insane. It is
Uh,
just so.
I have various drafts on like 3 different Google Drives. Final drafts are on one drive. Different drafts are on like my main one, and then there's like another one that I just threw some stuff on there. And so I could probably go back into it, but you know what? Let's not go back 10
Let's
years or
save it for
however long it
the
was.
Blu-ray commentary track.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I'll go back and review all the old drafts, read the hundreds of pages, because I
Yeah.
threw out at least 80 pages, 80 to 100
Oh,
pages.
the day when I can hit delete on that entire folder will be a very sweet day indeed. And my hard drive will probably start moving a lot faster when it's all gone. But yeah, we wanted to give you a chance to kind of get a little behind the scenes look at like the movie as we're making it. And to kind of give an idea of like what goes into this. We're giving you a tour of the chocolate factory, unlike certain assholes. We're we're actually I'm really proud of the fact that we've made it as far as we have. I didn't think we would. I always go into everything going, okay, we're going to try and do this. We're not going to be able to do it. But I mean, that was Manic Expression to begin with. I always say I didn't think we'd have 10 members. And I told somebody, if we make it to 100 members in like 6 months, we'll be fine. And we made it to 100 members in like 2 weeks. So I always go into these things just with lowered expectations. But you have to have those expectations where you're like, okay, we're not making the biggest movie of all time. There were certain scenes that I read in the script and I was like, shit, how are we going to do this? there's a certain scene that I'm sure Seth is dreading animating, because it's a gigantic battle scene with thousands of
Yep.
characters in it. But you have to have that ambition to, if we'd done this as a live action thing, it would have been like, we would have been lucky to get 2 people who dressed up in rubber masks to be the people that we fought.
Oh, that scene wouldn't be in there if this was live action.
No.
The whole thing wouldn't be what it is.
No, it would have been terrible. It probably would be done by now, but it would be
Yeah.
terrible. And
Yeah, you'd see us all age up and get gray hair.
yeah, well, we'd have to go in for reshoots and be like 5 years later.
Yeah, be like, hey Martin, weren't you like 50 pounds lighter during that scene where you play the main orc?
Why does Decker suddenly have a beard? But yeah, we wanted to give you like a this behind the scenes look at this project, and we'll continue to give little updates. I wanted to do one episode where it was just about the movie. And I think it's really funny. I mean, I know that I'm a part of it. It took me a long time to hear my own dialogue and laugh at it. I was laughing at everybody else's and not mine. And then at one point I was listening to it, and maybe I was just detached enough to where I wasn't hearing me. I was hearing the character, and I started laughing at some of the lines. And it is wonderfully offensive in all of the best ways. and yet somehow also manages to have a heart to it. Which is the thing that if you had given me a script that was just like a mean episode of South Park, like one of those episodes where they have a point but you don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
we would have been in trouble. But instead, there's parts of it where I'm like, okay, I like these characters. I'm not looking at these characters and going, oh, they're just a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah.
You know, even though they say certain things that
Mm-hmm.
that are, again, wonderfully, you know, I know how it is, you know, to have your baby aborted, you know, with scissors by the French.
You know, there are times where you quote back my own script to me and I don't recognize it, and I just have to go, wow, I was on a lot of stuff when I wrote that part.
And it's, you know what, that's you want Sam Kinison on coke, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it killed him, but without the coke maybe he wouldn't have been as funny. But
James, I am not going back on drugs for the sequel.
No,
I don't care how badly we need it.
The sequel will be when we sell out and we'll fire everybody and we'll bring in like Jeremy Johns to play a part or something.
What, but the handshake deal we have for the sequel won't hold up?
That's the thing. Like, if it is a proof of concept, there's a chance that they won't want any of us back. There's a chance that they'll get somebody else will be playing James, and we'll just get a check, you know. And that's the other thing that, like, I have accepted is I would love for this movie to just come out the way we want it to come out, which is basically what Seth's version will be. If we get nothing out of it, you know, well, other than money, but then they run off and they, you know, make a show with, and they recast everybody, and they don't want you to write, and they don't want Ichabod to do the music, and they don't want Seth to do the animation. We'll still have the version that Seth did, and I will look at that and I'll be like, that's what we wanted to do. And, you know, and Netflix is stupid for not bringing these people back, because all of these people are great. Like, across the board, everybody is great in this. Nobody half-assed it. Every single person that is in that movie did a phenomenal job. And if they didn't, I replaced them with somebody who would. So you know, Ichabod is an insanely talented musician. And everybody made it better. Just everybody who came in made it better. And that's what you want when you're doing a movie like this. You want people who are passionate about it and who are going to bring their A game, and they're not just doing it because they're your friend. I've had that before, where it's like, you know, you're shooting a movie and you get your friend to play a part and you're like, what am I doing? This is stupid, you know. And we didn't have that. So that's it for our discussion. But I do have one other thing that I want to bring up before we go, which is I was all prepared to be plugging my book today, and but one of the members of our channel, Carly, who was running our social media, she's going through a hard time right now. She's sick. She's going through chemotherapy, and because the world is a shitty, unfair place, she's not getting any help financially with it, and it's costing her basically all the money she's got just to pay for this chemotherapy that she has to have. So she's doing a GoFundMe campaign, which you can find a link in the description below. I encourage everybody to just click on it, donate what you can. Carly is a wonderful person. She's a mother of two. and she could really use the help. So anybody who is a fan of this channel or just a decent human being, if you can go to the link below and donate what you can, just a little bit to help her. Every little bit will help. So that's my pitch for this month. Next month, I'll hawk my book.
Okay. And I guess if there's a final takeaway from anything that you've heard here today, it's that if the people of Terrifier 2 can make a movie and get it in theaters, so can you.
Yeah. Yeah. And our movie's probably better than Terrifier 2.
Eh.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Adios.